What if I told you the rejection of Jesus by the Jewish people didn't happen simply because of disbelief, politics, or stubbornness, but because of a deep, ancient expectation that shaped their entire identity as God's chosen nation? In this video, we're diving into the real reason why, until today, many Jewish people cannot accept Jesus as the Messiah. Not because they hate him, not because they refuse the truth, but because their understanding of the Messiah was built on centuries of prophecy, trauma, hope, and survival. Stay until the end, because once you understand the full story, everything makes sense. Part 1. The Jewish Messiah was expected to be a political liberator. To understand the rejection, we must enter the mindset of ancient Israel. For centuries, they lived under foreign empires: Babylon, Persia, Greece, and finally Rome. Their hope for the Messiah wasn't centered on personal salvation from sin. They expected a king, a warrior, a national hero like David who would overthrow Rome, rebuild Israel's independence, restore the kingdom to its former glory. So when Jesus came preaching forgiveness, humility, love your enemies, and a kingdom not of this world, it completely clashed with the national expectations. Jesus didn't match the job description they believed the Messiah must fulfill. Part 2. Jesus didn't fulfill the messianic signs they expected. Jewish rabbis had clear criteria for the Messiah, and Jesus fulfilled many of them, but not in the way they expected. For example, the Messiah was expected to rebuild the temple, gather all Jewish exiles worldwide, bring world peace, establish God's kingdom physically on earth. But Jesus didn't rebuild the temple. He predicted its destruction. He didn't bring political peace. Rome continued to rule, and he didn't sit on a physical throne in Jerusalem. From the Jewish perspective, the Messiah must complete all these tasks. Christianity believes Jesus will complete them in his second coming. But Judaism does not have the concept of first coming and second coming. So for many Jews, Jesus simply did not fulfill the checklist. Part 3. The concept of a suffering Messiah was hard to accept. One of the biggest obstacles is Isaiah 53. Christians see it as a prophecy of a suffering, dying Messiah. But Judaism traditionally interprets it as referring to the nation of Israel, or a righteous remnant, but not the literal Messiah himself. Why? Because the idea of a Messiah who suffers, dies, and rises again didn't fit their expectation of a victorious king. So even though Jesus fulfilled the prophetic pattern of a suffering servant, the Jewish interpretive tradition didn't place that role on the Messiah. Part 4. Fear of false messiahs and the pain of history. Jewish history is full of men who claimed to be the Messiah but led Israel into disaster. The most infamous was Bar Kokhba, whose revolt led to massive deaths and destruction. After repeated tragedies, Jewish leaders became extremely cautious. If someone claims to be Messiah, he must fulfill all prophecies with zero mistakes. So when Jesus was crucified, a punishment for criminals under Roman law, the rabbis saw it as a clear sign that he could not be the promised king. They feared that following him would bring another national catastrophe. To them, it was safer to reject than to risk being misled again. Part 5. Jewish identity is strongly tied to the Torah, not a new covenant. Judaism is built on the law of Moses, Sabbath, kosher laws, circumcision. But Jesus introduced a new covenant, shifting the focus from ritual to spiritual transformation. For many Jews, this sounded like a threat to their identity, a new religion, something they couldn't accept after thousands of years of tradition. Christianity sees Jesus as the fulfillment of the law, but Judaism sees him as someone who changed the law, and that alone is enough for many to reject him. So when we ask, why did the Jewish people reject Jesus? The real reason is deeper than disbelief. It's a combination of ancient expectations, national trauma, strict prophetic standards, fear of false messiahs, and a strong commitment to the Torah. To Christians, Jesus perfectly fulfills the prophecies of the Messiah. But to many Jews, he doesn't match their traditional interpretation of what the Messiah should be. Understanding this doesn't mean choosing one side over another. It simply opens our eyes to the rich and complicated story behind faith, culture, and identity. And whether you're Christian, Jewish, or simply curious, one thing is clear: the question of the Messiah is not just about religion, it's about history, hope, and the future of humanity.